Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a moment, I am walking my happy butt over to the futon to check out the Paramount Plus exclusive Apartment 7A. So what's the story on this film? Well, it tells the story of a young dancer who moves into a new apartment that she's renting from an elderly couple. Well, this elderly couple finds out she's a struggling dancer and starts promising her fame and fortune, and let's just say, wackiness ensues. Of the spooky kind. This film is the prequel to the 1968 film Rosemary's Baby. And this is the second one of these, I guess you would call them legacy prequels, right? Because earlier in the year we had First Omen, which admittedly, I really enjoyed that movie. I could not believe how good it was. And it threw all of my feelings about prequels out the window. So I'm really hoping that this film does the same thing because I am a big, huge fan of Rosemary's Baby. Well, anyways, guys, I am super stoked to check out this movie, and fingers crossed it's just as good as First Omen and proves me wrong that prequels are completely useless and bring nothing to the table. But I'm really hoping, much like First Omen, that this movie does bring something new to the table. So it's time for me to walk my happy butt over to the futon and check out Apartment 7A. Welcome back. Just getting done checking out Apartment 7A, and well guys, I didn't really care for the movie all that much, but it wasn't the worst film I've ever seen. So let's get this started, shall we? We're going to get things started with negatives, then move into the positives to end the video on the ever so important high note. The first problem with this film is it suffers from the same thing that most prequels suffer from, and that is, what is the point of this? This film does not bring anything new to the table whatsoever. Now, when I found out that this movie was the prequel to Rosemary's Baby, I decided to go into this film as blind as humanly possible. I didn't even watch the trailer for this film. The only way I even found out what the plot of this movie was I read it on IMDb, because I was curious, how are they going to make a prequel to Rosemary's Baby? What character are they going to throw into this thing that story needs to be told that's going to expand on the mythos of this story? And, well, once you find out exactly who it is, which I don't know, maybe they reveal it in the trailer because I didn't see it, but once you find out who the character is and whose story is being told, it really loses all tension in the story because you know exactly what's going to happen to this character. So no matter what, no matter how they get from point A to point B, it doesn't matter because you already know what point B is. And so the movie doesn't really have any tension, which is really bad because the main character is a pretty good character and is well fleshed out and likable, and you really do want to see her succeed, but at the same time you know where this is headed, so it's kind of like, what's the freaking point of all of this? The film doesn't really ever want to go in any new direction either. It seems like it's more of a remake of the original Rosemary's Baby than it is trying to be its own thing. It feels like for a while that it's following in all of the same footsteps and then just throwing in the dancer story just a little bit in order to, you know, have something a little bit different. And instead of an overbearing gaslighting husband, her, I guess you could say, villain of the story is a producer of the play that she's in who's really controlling and kind of pulling the strings and everything and advancing her and all. So she wants to please this person at all costs. But unfortunately, because they don't have that really solid connection, it doesn't really come off that solid whatsoever, where something like a husband and wife duo would have had. It didn't have that tension that really in that relationship. The movie kind of meanders on a little bit too, and then when it finally gets to the point where she's trying to learn about what's going on, who are these people that are around her, it just seems like it doesn't happen organically. Everything is just kind of slapped onto her. It just literally answers like billboards. Oh, guess what? This is why this is happening. This is why this is happening. She actually goes to a church and just a nun is like, oh my God, I know what's wrong with you. And it's just really kind of cheesy. Now, this movie isn't horrible by any means, all right? I'm making it sound like it was a really bad movie, but it was actually a well-executed film. This movie is directed by Natalie Erica James, and you can tell that she actually does have a love for the original film. There's a lot of things about this movie that have a vibe that it would easily fit within the boundaries of that time period. I think that she did an excellent job of bringing 1965 to life. There are some scenes where you get to see outside the building in that time period, and it looks really good. The costuming looks excellent. Everything about this film looks really great down to the T. It's a very well-made, well-shot film. Also, the acting in this movie is excellent. Our main character is played by Julia Garner, and she does an excellent job in the role. I really liked her character, even though, like I said, it's kind of pointless because it doesn't really go anywhere. I think she did a really good job with the role and trying to make something that is honestly the same as Mia Farrow in the other Rosemary's Baby, but still give her own performance and a different twist. So I thought her performance was great. But if there was one person I am going to give the big shout out to for this film, is going to be Diana Wiest. She played Minnie. Now, if you're familiar with the original Rosemary's Baby, then you know that that role was played by Ruth Gordon in the original. And Ruth Gordon just knocked it out of the ballpark. And I have to say that Diana Wiest does an extremely good job making the character familiar to Ruth Gordon's character, but also her own performance at the same time. And also, she brings in a level of comedy and levity that in some situations in this film is a much needed thing, and it makes the film feel a little bit more human. So all in all, guys, oh, and one more thing, I will like to say this too for people who are big fans of the original Rosemary's Baby. Much like myself, this movie doesn't take anything away from the first film. Let me just put that out there. It just kind of tells a pointless story that we don't really need in this franchise whatsoever. Much like the 1976, I want to say, made-for-TV movie, Whatever Happened to Rosemary's Baby, I think was the name of that one. I've never seen it, but I've heard some wonderful things about that one. And not that this movie is that terrible. I feel like it's definitely worth a watch. If you're already a subscriber of Paramount Plus, you're curious about this movie, I would say give it a view, give it a check out. Why not? What you gotta lose? The movie isn't terrible. It doesn't have a horribly long runtime. I think it came in under 2 hours. I want to say an hour, maybe 45 minutes, something like that. So it doesn't really overstay its welcome. It's not a terrible movie. It's just kind of a pointless movie. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Thanks again for checking out The Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.